What's happening, guys? Happy Monday, and welcome to the Dynasty Warzone, the People's Dynasty Podcast. On today's show, we are back with a mock draft on a Monday, but Monday is not normally my day. Normally on Monday, my main man, Mr. Dallas Hyder at Salad Galore on Twitter, he hosts the Rookie Rundown, this show. So, Dallas, I've taken over your show, but thanks for letting me jump in with you.
Yeah, of course. It's great to be here. It's officially my first rookie mock of the year, so it should be pretty exciting to dive into it and see where I just violently shake up what the sleeper ADP is wanting us to do. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the mock draft is going to be supported by some of our patrons. We got a couple of patrons in the mock draft with us. And speaking of patrons, we have a patron with us. Now, this guy is no fantasy football rookie. He's newer to us, but he's been great. And I tell you right now, I'm not putting him over because he's joining us. I'm putting him over because it's true. Every group chat needs a guy like this guy. He keeps the chat going. He's passionate about football. He's passionate about Dynasty. And he's been nothing short of fantastic for the group. And he's going to jump on and Mac. He is a Mac, but he's going to mock with Dallas and I. He's actually been on the Dynasty War Games once before in a couple of fashions. I'm going to welcome to the show Mr. Austin Schaefer at FFA Schaefer on Twitter. Austin, man, thanks for jumping on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's always a blast.
So very rarely do we get like a live advertisement, if you will, for the Patreon. But how's your time been the last few months that you've been hanging out with us? Have you enjoyed the chat?
Absolutely. I mean, I have it pinned in my app just because I'm always in it, so I don't have to scroll to find it. It's just at the top. I'm in it every single day.
Yeah, I can co-sign that he is in this thing every single day, and a lot of spirited debate. But the one thing I love about it is everything is professional, kind, and above board. We actually had another patron, and I feel bad for not remembering the exact name. But we had another patron who actually said it's nice to be in this chat, unlike Twitter, where everything seems to be an argument, and you can disagree on the players, you can disagree on the talent, but at the end of the day, we're all here to learn something, and that's what we're going to do tonight. So tonight, I know Austin wanted to do a super flex mock, but I thought to myself, if we do the super flex version, simply picks 2 through 5 are going to be QBs. And just kind of how it goes with the way mocks I've been in. So we know the quarterbacks. We kind of know the various orders depending on where you go. But we're going to do a 1 QB league. We're going to give our brothers and sisters that play 1 QB, but to give it a little spice, to give it a little kick, we are going to kick in tight end premium because Dallas, you're my rookie guy. You've been my go-to since like September. Would it be fair to say that this is the best tight end class that we've seen arguably since 2017? And I know we know the big names. We remember O.J. Howard, David Njoku, Evan Ingram. But people also forget that was the Jonnu Smith, the Gerald Everett. And if you go way down into the mid-rounds of that particular draft, you got a little guy. I don't know. Maybe you heard of him. His name was not Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers. So would you say this is the best class since then? And what are your thoughts on the tight ends coming out of this 2023 class?
Yeah, I would say the top 5 guys as a core in this year's class are probably the best we've seen since that by far. I would say that the depth goes on a little bit further, but once you get outside of those top 5 for me, it's not like there's any game breakers that I see. It's not like as good as Jonnu Smith has been in flashes, it's not like he's broken the fantasy game from that class. And there's a lot of guys that'll probably fall in that same type of tier as a Jonnu. But I do like the top end talent of the tight end class for sure.
For sure. And we'll talk about it once we see where the tight ends go, because we've got a few people in here doing live human drafting, and then we're going to have the super sleeper bot ADP assisting us as well. We're doing 90 seconds in between rounds. I will hit the pause button, and I am going to share my screen. We have to get to it. Our buddies over at the Dynasty War Games, I believe they're going to be going on live after us at 10. So we're not going to waste any time because we ain't got no time to waste. But before I do that, because it's two guests, I have the special guest intro for you.
Featuring, coming this week. Y'all tap in with it, It's something real nifty. It's something real sporty. On Hood, we got a great interview,
All right. Well, I am going to share my screen. I am going to get this thing laid out. It doesn't seem to want to work with me here. So, Dallas, anything else you have about this rookie class while I try to get my setup set up?
Yeah, I guess it's just more of commentary on the general rookie space in general this year. It's just the classic thing where everyone was talking down this class like prolifically for the last 6 months, and then the second where there's nothing but rookies to talk about, all you see is positive threads on people's websites about how the class is good. You need to pay attention to it. It's been a middle of the road class overall when it comes to top end talent. There's a couple of blue chippers, but not really much outside of that you could kind of locked and loaded, put your name down and bet thousands of dollars to succeed in the NFL. But overall, the depth, like this class specifically, when you are looking kind of in the second and third round of a lot of dynasty rookie drafts this coming fall and late summer, you're going to see probably 10 to 12 wide receivers and running backs in that range where all of them could easily replace the wide receiver 2 and RB2 production that we've been getting from a lot of guys. And I wouldn't be shocked, but you could also see those same prospects in the second and third round have careers on the level of a John Ross. And I also wouldn't be shocked. It's very volatile, and it's due to the deficiencies in a lot of the games of the players to whether, I mean, a lot of the issues come from hands, not really physical traits in general. And so it's stuff that's teachable for a lot of the prospects. We find ourselves nitpicking a lot, where if they work on it, great. If they don't, then it may be the dud of a class that we're expecting. But it's just more of commentary on the general space of, I knew everyone was eventually going to come around when there was nothing else to talk about. And it just makes me chuckle online now.
I know it's cliche, and you'll hear it a lot, landing spot dependent, but at the end of the day, we're all landing spot dependent. Mm-hmm. So I think outside of Bijan, a couple of other guys. So here it is. I'm going to hit go in just a second. No one took the 101. That's good. No one's lazy because we all know who 101 is. We'll deal with that in just a second. Austin took the 102. I took the 103. We have one of our patrons in at 105, and then Mr. Dallas took 107. So I can't wait to see how this thing goes. I am going to hit the start button. Once we get past Dallas at 7, we'll recap and we'll talk about the players collectively. So I am going to hit start draft. Yep, we're going to start the draft. Of course, Bijan. And Austin, you're on the clock. I'll let you pick, and then I'll pause the draft. Okay, so I'm going to pause the draft because, see, I'm in charge. Austin, you went Jackson Smith and Jigba. I've seen a mixed, no pun intended, salad of mocks and drafters out there. It was between him and a certain other running back. What made you hit the draft button, Austin, on JSN?
So, first of all, I think JSN is my wide receiver 1. I'm sure he might be most people's wide receiver 1, but I was watching him and Jahmyr Gibbs today. I know pretty much it's going to go Bijan and then Gibbs. What I saw from Gibbs didn't wow me as much as what I saw from Smith and Jigba. This guy, he might not have, what's the word I'm looking for? Elite top end speed, but his acceleration is insane. He can stop on a dime. He can make quick cuts. It just seems like he can just roam through defenses and just get open every single time. And that I just love.
Well, I'm going to make my pick, and then I'm going to pause the draft again going into the 105 and let Dallas comment on your pick and my pick. And I do like Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think the speed thing is way overrated. If the speed thing mattered, John Ross would still be thriving in the league, and he's not. So it's not always about speed. I've said this before. I'm a big guy who I like a mechanic or a technician at the wide receiver position. I think JSN has that. So I don't mind that pick. So I'm going to hit resume draft, and that means I got a minute 20 to make this pick. And I hate to say it, so I'm going to go chalk, but I'm going to warn everybody. I don't mind a little table talk. I am going to warn everybody. If another running back gets good draft capital, like day 2, and in a really good spot, he could leapfrog the guy I'm going to draft. I'm going to draft Jahmyr Gibbs. We have some auto picks going. I am going to hit pause, so Dallas has plenty of time to make his pick. But I can't ignore the pass catching chops of Jahmyr Gibbs. The 199, 200 pounds does not bother me. Guys like Austin Eckler, plenty of small guys have succeeded in the NFL at that position. So after my Jahmyr Gibbs, it went Jordan Addison, who I love, Quentin Johnston, who I don't love, Zach Charbonnet, and then we have Dallas on the clock. So Dallas, I'm going to go to you, then I'm going to go back to Austin. Anything you have on the first 6 picks, anybody in particular, maybe 1 or 2 guys you want to chat up, and then when you're ready, throw it over to Austin, who can cover anything he has on Gibbs, Addison, Johnston, and Charbonnet.
Yeah, as of right now, with what we've seen so far, based off of a lot of people's ranks that they posted, the first 4 in this draft in a 1 quarterback league is pretty chalk. I think that the first 4 picks are going to be some I can't fault anyone, computer or otherwise, for picking who they picked here based off of what we know right now, combine times, what they put on tape and everything like that. But for me, my RB2 is still on the board, so I know who I'm going to be taking immediately at my next pick here. I do think that Addison and QJ probably in the top 5 is a little rich, just due to again, kind of what they've put up in college. Addison has 1 prolific season underneath his belt, but kind of underwhelmed on a very good team this year in USC. And, QJ, for all that we like to hype him up, basically only put up 900 receiving yards again. So, it's interesting. But as I kind of alluded to on my pick, I'm going with Sean Tucker as my pick at the next selection. He's my RB2 in the class, and him being available at 107 is hilarious to me. And a lot of the mock drafts I have seen so far, he's actually falling out of the first round, which if that happens, everyone deserves to just get punched in the nads.
Well, Austin, what do you think about Dallas's pick? It bums me out because anybody who knows that I've been a big Sean Tucker guy. But I'd like to give our other guest the floor. Austin, man, take a minute, go over anyone that has been drafted from Dallas's pick going backwards, and then we'll read the picks that went after Dallas.
Okay. That's right here. No, it's like Dallas said. I mean, right after me, it went Gibbs, Addison, Johnson. I think that's typical. The only thing I do want to go back to Gibbs. I mean, you're right. The size, it shouldn't matter, but to me, it does a little bit. I just think he's might be just too small, maybe. I don't know how big Eckler is compared to him. I'm sure it's similar. But like I said earlier, I was watching Gibbs a lot today, and what I saw actually made me happier in a sense. I mean, he's really fast, obviously, and he's dangerous when he can go outside of the offensive line. But other than that, he can't go through it. And to me, a running back should, in a sense, have to do that. He just can't move the pile. But the good thing is, since he's so small and shifty, if he can get through and he has open space, he's gone. Like you can't get him. Other than that, I do like his pass catching ability. His yards after the catch is really nice. But for me, if I had the 103 in that spot, I don't know who I'd take. I don't know if I would go Gibbs there, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair. So I do want to give a shout out. When I use someone else's technology or tools, I don't want to take credit for it. So I was already pulled up on one of my screens. Shout out to Player Profiler. playerprofiler.com. I think it's the cleanest player graphics on the market. Always very clean over at Player Profiler. So I threw in Austin Eckler at your request. He is listed at 5'9", 199. And one of the cool things about Player Profiler is on the upper part of the page, it shows you who their most comparable is. And then Austin Eckler's most comparable was Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones's most comparable was Christian McCaffrey. So if that's the kind of guy, like, and they're all in that 5'9" to 5'11", they're between 199 and 208 pounds, right in that range where Jahmyr Gibbs is. But what do all these guys have in common? They've been ultra featured in the passing game, and that's why I like Gibbs. But I don't want to make this the Gibbs mock draft. I'm going to turn the mock draft back on, and we're one pick away from Austin being on the clock. Now, Austin, you're going to be on the clock, but for just a second, I got to remove this so I can read the draft order of the way things have gone. So doing the best I can with Sleeper, but thank you to Sleeper for having great mock tools. So I'm going to resume the draft for just a second. Okay, perfect. All right, I'm going to pause the draft. Austin is on the clock. So I'm going to read the first round and give Austin plenty of time to catch his breath and be ready for the second round. First tight end, this is tight end premium, basically FFPC best ball rules. Michael Mayer went at the 108. Kayshon Boutte went at 109. I love to see it. Big booty guy. Booty everywhere. Josh Downs, wide receiver from UNC. Devon Achane went at 111, and Jalen Hyatt went at 112. The computer was back-to-back. They went back-to-back running backs with the sleeper ADP. So they went Bijan Robinson 1, Tank Bigsby 2. Austin, I think maybe you might have a pick, but while we have a pause button, I'm going to use it, and I'm going to let you cover anything about Mayer, Boutte, Downs, Achane, Hyatt, or Bigsby. Did you get sniped? Was there someone in that 6 players that you wished you'd got your hands on? Or are you happy with what's left on the board?
I'm very happy, and I think if you ask Dallas the same question, I'm going to steal his answer. I think Kayshon Boutte went way too early. I just think he has way too much going on. I heard that was his freshman year. He played really, really well, and then he kind of just started to fall off. I know he was injured a little bit, but I just think it's too early for him at the 109.
What about you, Dallas? Anything of the group of Mayer, Boutte, Josh Downs, Devon Achane, and Jalen Hyatt, anything in that group stick out? Anything that you like? Anything that you I love the fact that Austin pointed out a guy that he thought went too high, or any value in there?
Yeah, I hate 4 of the 5 picks, if I'm being 100% blunt, based off of where we're at right now.
You're our rookie guy, so give us some of the hates.
Michael Mayer, I can promise you, I can basically promise it now, will not be the first tight end taken in fantasy drafts here. There's been a slow and steady drumbeat for Dalton Kincaid. To take my bow for the early plug for Kincaid in the Patreon group chat for everyone that's been there for a while. He's a significantly better athlete. I think the combine is really something that's going to hurt Mayer. Mayer just needed to test average athletically, and he tested under average in pretty much every metric across the board. You're seeing a huge lean typically into the athletic tight end. So I think Kincaid would have been the smarter pick, even in a tight end premium over Mayer in that spot. Boutte, I understand the hype, but I think it's more of a Devy hype than anything. I still am a strong believer that his yak ability is potentially the best in the class. It's up there with Zay Flowers, with Quentin Johnston with the ball in his hand. There's just a lot of off the field concerns right now. Athletically, he tested probably the worst out of anyone from any position at the combine. So that's not great. Josh Downs is the one pick that I do love. Downs is in my second tier of wide receivers. He's a guy where every time I watch another game of Josh Downs, I fall slightly more in love with the dude. From a metric standpoint and a production standpoint, So it doesn't matter if you're coming at it from tape or analytics. He has basically the same profile coming out that Elijah Moore had. So you all that have been around here for long enough know how I feel about Elijah Moore, how I felt coming out. Love me some Downs as a true slot. A-Chain, cool. He ran fast. If you have him this high as RB 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you are definitely in the minority, most likely in the class right now. At that size, it's just not feasible. And then for me, Jalen Hyatt, if your entire reasoning for being hyped up as a prospect is 1 year of production and you're supposed to be a speed god, and then you run the, I think, 8th fastest 40 time from the wide receiver position, I'm probably not going to be lauding your game. He is very limited, and it's a name that is one of my favorites to throw out for these speed guys. I did it with Ruggs when he was coming out. Strong Corey Coleman vibes with a guy like Jalen Hyatt. So just be warned. That's a fan favorite of you and Jerry. I know you guys like to bring him up occasionally.
Well, I am going to make my comments. I'm going to buy Austin about 2 more minutes before he actually has to make this draft pick. Michael Mayer, as an Indiana guy, I'm not overly committed to the University of Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. I will tell you, we have largely been disappointed by Notre Dame tight ends, whether, I think Tyler Eifert had a chance. He just couldn't stay healthy. They wanted to call Kyle Rudolph Baby Gronk. He never lived up to that moniker. I don't think Mayer will either. I think the tight ends are going to get very interesting based on landing spot. The Cowboys need a tight end. The Bengals need a tight end. The Chargers could take a tight end. Those are all teams that have shown the ability to use the tight end in the previous offensive schemes. And if a good rookie lands there, that's going to propel them, even if it's Mayer. Mayer could be that guy, and that could propel him up the board. I will say this, and I'll just finish on Butte because he is one of my guys. I did a guest spot on the Dynasty Fever podcast last week with Jerry and Brian and Jesse. And the conversation was we were drafting our guys. And Kayshon Butte is one of my guys. He's young. He's not even 21. He'll be like 21 in June. He's got that high knucklehead factor, but I will absolutely be Butte crazy if he lands with a veteran QB and a good offensive head coach. A couple of examples that come to mind. I would love to see him land in LA with Sean McVay. A couple of years of growing up in that offense to eventually replace Cooper Kupp, who I believe turns 30 this summer. There is no true outside number one in New York with Brian Daboll. I'm not saying he'd be Stephon Diggs, but he would get the shot at that type of role. And then the last one will kind of blow people's minds, but outside of the tight end whose last name I can't pronounce, but everybody just calls him Chig, and Treylon Burks, there's no one in Tennessee outside of those two guys. And the one thing about Mike Vrabel is he can handle young men that need some maturing. He's not an offensive-minded head coach, but those are 3 spots that if a Kayshon Butte lands, I'm going to be an even bigger fan than I am now. But all right, Austin, I've made you wait long enough. I am going to find my cursor, and I am going to hit draft resume. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right, you're going to draft. I'm going to draft. I'm going to pause the draft again. We'll talk about our 2 picks, and then we'll let the draft resume. So here we go. You're on the clock.
I don't think you guys are going to like this.
Uh-oh. Well, we'll talk about it. Okay. Well, it's funny. I do like that, but I also like the fact that you are a pal, and you left me a guy that I really like. So I'm going to take my guy. I'm going to let the computer do its thing. I'm going to let it get to Dallas, and I'm going to pause the draft again. All right. So here we go. Second round, and I'll read the entire round for y'all at the end of the draft. The 201 was Tank Bigsby, running back out of Auburn. My man Austin went with what I continue to see mocked as future Colt Anthony Richardson. I selected Kendre Miller, running back out of TCU. Right behind that was the guy that Kendre Miller ran out of town in TCU, and Zach Evans, Ole Miss running back. Bryce Young went to Team 5. Zay Flowers, I'm going to be real honest with you. Zay Flowers at the 206 so far, in my opinion, is the steal of this draft. Dallas is on the clock, but I'm going to give it to Austin. Austin, I want to know what made you select Anthony Richardson with the 202, And anything you want to add on Bigsby, Miller, Evans, Young, Flowers as well.
Okay. So I know we're doing a one quarterback mock, but typically when you're in a one quarterback league, you already have your one quarterback set. For me personally, I'm in 2 one quarterback leagues, I think. One, the quarterback is Josh Allen, and the other one is Jalen Hurts, i.e., I'm set. So I don't see an issue with taking a quarterback that seems to have the most upside ever. I mean, he can run. We saw that at the combine. I know a lot of people, I think, are double counting that. But I mean, if you're shooting for upside, you might as well take the guy that can, do it. I'm not a fan of his passing. I've heard people say that it's just things that can get worked out. Could that be true? Yeah. But all I know is I think when I pressed his name, he was like 8 players down. So chances were I wasn't going to get him if I didn't take him there. So that's why I did that. But if I'm shooting for upside and I already have my guy, why not take him?
All right, I'll throw in some comments on Richardson in a second, but Dallas, actually Austin, anything on Bigsby, Miller, Evans? Obviously, you're not into Bryce Young because you took Richardson ahead of him, or Zay Flowers. Any notes on those guys?
Yes, actually, I would have. For me, that pick, it was either going to be Richardson or your guy, Kendre Miller, because I think Kendre Miller might also be my guy. I don't know who they were playing in the playoffs. I completely forget. But when I was watching him, I just was like, wow, this guy is really good. And so I think he's going to be someone that I'm trying to get in most of my rookie drafts this year.
All right, Mr. Dallas Hyder. Anything you want to add on Bigsby, Richardson, Miller, Evans, Young, or Flowers?
Yeah, I'll just go in order real quick. I feel like I've been adamantly opposed to Richardson, so I will skip him in this one. We don't need to talk about quarterbacks in one quarterback draft, but to each their own at the quarterback position, because we all know nothing at the quarterback position as dynasty analysts anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Tank Bigsby is probably the most under the radar prospect right now. People who have been playing Devy and have had him on your teams for a while now know how good he can be. But I'm doing a rookie word association game with the Dynasty Warzone guys here coming up. But the words that I basically have for Tank Bigsby is almost. He's almost my favorite in certain categories. He's almost elite in certain categories. And so you find him just kind of slipping through the cracks in this running back group, which is probably going to be a huge mistake for a lot of people just based off of the athleticism that he has at the size. He's one of the larger backs in the class, really well built and really physical runner. So I do like that pick. I'm in lockstep with both of you. Kendre Miller was the next person on my board going into the second round. So I love the pick at the 203. Zach Evans. If Tanks Bigsby is my player where it's almost good enough, and I think he's going to be falling through the cracks classically like everyone else this year, I think Zach Evans is probably being overrated to a certain extent. Again, with the quarterback position at Bryce Young, it is what it is right now. And then Zay Flowers is firmly in the middle of a tier of 4 wide receivers that I have. That as of right now, not knowing truly where they're drafted, I have no idea which one I like more, and I'm not going to fault anyone for picking any of those 4 in any order, basically. But going into my pick, there is a wide receiver that I have clearly above.
Well, give me just 1 second. Just give me 1 second, because I want to talk about Anthony Richardson and Austin's pick.
Yeah.
So I've been helping one of our other patrons. He is trying to get a deal done prior to the draft because he doesn't have a solid quarterback. I believe he won his league last year, but he lost Brady. He's got an old Matthew Stafford. And Anthony Richardson, I don't mind this pick because if he hits the top of his range, he's going to kill it. He is absolutely going to kill it. And it becomes not only did you hit a home run, but you're playing a bit of keep away. You're keeping him away from someone else's roster. And I can tell you what this other patron and I have been going through trying to get him a quarterback. These guys in the league that he's in practically want super flex value for Trevor Lawrence. and this guy's got like 3 really good QBs. I'm not telling you to draft Anthony Richardson in the second round. I don't have a problem with it if you do, but I will tell you, if he lands with a progressive, and that's the word, Andy Reid was progressive when it came to Patrick Mahomes. And to their credit, the Eagles were progressive when they took Jalen Hurts. If he lands in Indy, will I love it? No, because we're probably going to see the mustache show, the Gardner Minshew show for probably 6, 8, 10, 12 games. Little under the radar hashtag steal. If you can get some cheap Gardner Minshew, probably not the worst thing. But in the second round in a 1 QB league, you should be taking big swings. That's why I took Kendre Miller. I think he could be this year's Kenneth Walker in that big physical athlete. A lot of touchdowns, a lot of yards. Not a super big receptions guy. He had more touchdowns than receptions. He had 17 touchdowns last year, and he had 16 receptions. But just because he didn't do it doesn't mean that he can't do it. So that's why I took him. And then Bryce Young, I'm going to continue to say it. For our patrons, I did safe rankings and I did aggressive rankings at the QB position. And Bryce Young, I said it on Twitter earlier today on Sunday, the 26th. Bryce Young is never going to be the reason why you win a fantasy championship. Never. He would literally have to be Tom Brady reincarnated, throwing 5,500 yards and 40 TDs to be impactful. Whereas with his wheels, Anthony Richardson could be a QB1 while throwing 15 passes. Daniel Jones last year was the QB7 on the season, throwing 15 passes. Why? Because he rushed for 700 yards on top of throwing for 15 passes. So I have no issue with the Anthony Richardson take. As a matter of fact, I like the home run swing. But all right, Dallas, I've given you a long enough break. It's time for you to make a draft pick. So what I'm going to do, because we have no drafters behind Dallas, I'm going to let the Dallas make his pick. I'm going to let the computer run it out. We'll talk about the rest of the second round, and then we'll wrap this thing up and hand it over to the War Games guys. So resuming now, Dallas, you're making a selection.
Correct. Yeah. So I kind of alluded to it before. There's one wide receiver I have left on the board, on my specific board, that is far and above, should not be on the board at the 2-7. It is Mr. Xavier Hutchinson out of Iowa State. For anyone that's been following my rookie content specifically, you will know that he is extremely high on my board. I have him in the same tier as the Quentin Jefferson, Josh Downs, Kayshon Bouttes of the world, due to the fact that I think he has shown you, both from a production standpoint, a film standpoint, and an analytics standpoint, that he can do absolutely everything Quentin Johnston can do in the exact same league, with arguably the same level, if not worse, quarterback play in college than what Quentin Johnston has had to deal with at TCU. And he's done everything better than the level that Quentin Johnston has shown you in college. 3 seasons in the Big 12, all 3 years, successive production in receptions, yardage, touchdowns, team target share, and they're all better marks than what Quentin Johnston has done. Again, alluding a little bit to the rookie word game that I'm going to be doing with the DWZ War Game guys. I have him as a contortionist. He is amazing at making circus catches underneath specifically. And if you like QJ's yak ability, that is the one fault to Xavier Hutchinson's game, is that he does not have the elite yak ability that a guy like QJ does. But his ability to separate underneath it's laughably better than what you get from QJ underneath on intermediate routes. I liken him a lot to a guy that I kind of not grew up watching, but was really deep into football when I was going through my early high school years, in Victor Cruz. I see a lot of Victor Cruz in him. His ability to separate, his ability to just kind of outbody and outbox players underneath. And if everyone's been sitting there just kind of hyping up those JSN numbers, those cone drills, those short shuttle drills, you know who was number 2 in those drills? Xavier Hutchinson. His elite separation ability does not get talked about enough. And if you haven't watched any tape on him, any of the listeners or even both of you, I strongly suggest you do it. He's just got some amazing tape that's out there, and I'm very excited to see where he lands. I think he's going to be realistically the steal of this draft going into the rookie season.
All right, I'm gonna throw a couple of nuggets out there at Xavier Hutchinson. Then I'll read the rest of this board. Then we'll chat and wrap this one up. But Xavier Hutchinson, fun thing, he had more receptions than Quentin Johnston. He had more yards. He actually led the Big 12 in receiving yards and as many touchdowns. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say Max Dugan was better than the quarterback that he played with this year. That's my opinion. And I'm entitled to it. So I really like Xavier Hutchinson. And I want to point this out. I was on the Dynasty Fever podcast the other day. And no, excuse me, this was my Toilets to Titles stop by on the Toilets to Titles YouTube channel. And they asked me if I was in the top 5, would I take a wide receiver there? And I said, if I had 4 or 5, 100%. I'm going to take JSN or I'm going to take Jordan Addison. I happen to be a much bigger Addison guy the most because I want to walk away with a draft like Dallas's. Dallas walked away with Sean Tucker and Xavier Hutchinson. I would much rather walk away with Sean Tucker and Xavier Hutchinson than what we have here with and even Team 5. They have Zach Charbonnet and Zay Flowers, the double Z team, ZZ Top, if you will, as opposed to Team 4 that went Jordan Addison at 4 and then got Zach Evans on the way back. I would much rather have the combination of Charbonnet or Flowers or Tucker and Hutchinson than I would Addison and Evans, and that's coming from an Addison guy. I will say one thing about this draft. We didn't get a lot of tight ends. We will talk about the tight ends since the algorithm, the ADP didn't help us. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the rest of the second round, and then I'll get Austin's opinion on the rest of these guys, if he's got anything. And then we'll go to Dallas, and then I'll recap the entire thing, and we'll recap the show. So after Dallas took Xavier Hutchinson, the computer took C.J. Stroud, Cedric Tillman, Tajay Spears, Rashee Rice, and Will Levis. And I will go ahead and throw the 3-1 in there. What the hell? Dalton Kincaid. So Austin, you took Anthony Richardson. I took Miller. Then after that, it went Evans, Bryce Young, Zay Flowers, Xavier Hutchinson, C.J. Stroud, Cedric Tillman, Tajay Spears, Rashee Rice, and Will Levis. And what the hell, Dalton Kincaid? Is there a guy in there that you love? Is there a pick in there that you hate? What do you think about the 10 guys, actually 11 guys that went after you?
I wouldn't say there's any I hate. I mean, I don't think Will Levis belongs there, but if you need him, do it.
Also agreed.
What I am a little shocked about, I was looking at DLF's March 1 quarterback rookie draft ADP, and Marvin Mims is wide receiver 7. He is not in the second round here, so I thought that was pretty interesting. So I hopped on over to the rookie big board, and I was looking at what they had to say. And
that's our friend Matt Hicks, by the way. The rookie big board is Matt Hicks over at DLF. Big fan.
Yeah, he seems to love Marvin Mims. He's an explosive playmaker with consistent hands, ball tracking ability. He reacts well to underthrown balls and off-target passes. I mean, to me, that just sounds like a guy that isn't going to give up on plays. I want that on my team. So I'm just very surprised that a guy like Mims wasn't in the second round. If this was a real draft and I'm actually on the clock, I'm happy because I can get Mims right here.
I would be trading up. I would be because you're at the 302, you'd be taking Marvin Mims, and I'd be bugging you and be telling me to kiss your ass because you're not trading because you're getting a steal. And before I throw it to Dallas to get some takes on some of these guys, again, I always like to give credit where credit is due. Again, I was listening to Billy Muzio and Matt Kelly, the Podfather, on they were doing something very similar, but it was for a best ball tournament that they were in, and they were willing to draft Mims in their rookie draft. I think they took him in like the 17th, 18th round. I'm guessing. And that says something, right? I mean, this was a live. This was not a mock. This was a real FFPC draft. I think it was like $35, $50, something like that. And real money, real rounds. So the ADP is more accurate. And like I said, these are two high stakes guys, and they were willing to put their Mims money where their mouth is. Try saying that 3 times fast. But Dallas, anything on these guys, and then I'm going to read the board, and then I want to get some tight end conversation. We'll get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to kind of touch on the Mims situation a little bit, there's always a wide receiver that is slightly undersized that kind of fits this mold that you start to get extreme value on. Typically, it's a guy who's going to get drafted higher than people think. Last year, it was Wan'Dale Robinson, the tail end of the second round, going into the beginning of the third round that you were getting at a value. It just kind of happens every year. Mims is probably going to be that guy. I was going to say, just from what's left, my 14th, 15th, and 17th player out of the top 24 that I wrote down for this draft tonight are still available on the board. So Mims was one of those three. I agree he probably is going to go before this. As for people that were picked up after me, Stroud and Levis, the same comments that I had for Richardson and Young apply there. I think it's a little rich to have Tillman over Rice based off of what we saw in college. I get that there's a slight height advantage, but if you like Tillman, you should love Rice, and Rice actually isn't a projection more so than what Tillman is. Out of everyone that was drafted in the first two rounds, Tyjae Spears going at the 210 is my pick for the steal of the draft. He does pretty much everything that you could want from a running back. He's been getting nothing but hype since the pre-draft process started early on before even the Senior Bowl. So I like that. And then I kind of already touched on Kincaid as well. I would honestly kind of flip where you have Mayer and Kincaid in the tight end premium, just because I think he's going to be drafted realistically as early as 15 to Green Bay makes a lot of sense for a guy like Dalton Kincaid. So.
Well, I like that quite a bit. I want to give my take on Mims real quick. Because, again, I have Player Profiler pulled up, and I'm looking at their thing, and they're doing comparables. And I looked at Marvin Mims, and it says he's 5'9", 5'11", and 183 pounds. And he ran a 4.38 40, and he had an elite level burst score. It's 91st percentile at 131.9, whatever the hell that means. And it reminded me of a guy that I watched his entire career, like literally every game, including last year with Dallas's Cowboys, his namesake, and that's T.Y. Hilton. To me, he looks like a more bursty version of T.Y. Hilton. Similar guy, similar speed, and I think Marvin Mims is going to be a steal. But I'm going to read the entire draft. I really don't have a lot. I think Dallas and Team 6 got some steals at Zay Flowers and Hutchinson. I don't mind Tillman so much. I agree. I'm a Will Levis guy. Me and Cody Carpentier are big Will Levis guys, but even I think that's too high. So here's the full draft in order. If you want to see it for yourself, you can go to YouTube, search Dynasty Warzone under live vids. You can pull this bad boy up and leave some comments. And while you're there, subscribe to the goddamn thing. Anyway, round one, Bijan Robinson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, Zach Charbonnet, Sean Tucker, Michael Mayer, Kayshon Boutte. Yeah, I'm going to say it like that all season. Get used to it. Number 9, Kayshon Boutte, Josh Downs, Devon Achane, Jalen Hyatt. That wrapped up the first round. Round 2, Tank Bigsby, Anthony Richardson, Kendre Miller, Zach Evans, Bryce Young, Zay Flowers, Xavier Hutchinson, CJ Stroud, Cedric Tillman, Tyjae Spears, Rashee Rice, Will Levis, and then the 25th pick was Mr. Dalton Kincaid. So I am going to boot the screen share again. If you want to see that, Dynasty Warzone on YouTube at about the 43-minute mark, you can see it and pause it and write it all down. So I'm going to remove this. Look at all these handsome faces all back in here. The well-mustached salad galore here. All right. I'm going to start with you, Dallas. So you like Dalton Kincaid. There's Michael Mayer. There's the Kuntz kid. Someone's going to call him Kuntz, and there's nothing I can do about it. You got Musgrave, and Darnell Washington. So give us a breakdown. We know you like Kincaid. What are your top 5? What are your top 5 at the tight end position?
Yeah, so mine's a little bit different than some other people. As everyone kind of knows that's been listening to me, at least, I have a specific process with my quarterbacks and tight ends. I'm not going to be doing projections. Yes, it's cool. That's the reason that I was kind of out on a guy like Jelani Woods last year. Athleticism is amazing, but if you cannot show me that you can use the athleticism in college, it means absolutely nothing to me that you're athletic on paper. So some of the athletic freaks, or supposedly were supposed to be Musgrave, those guys don't interest me as much. So as of right now, the top 5 that I have, Kincaid is number 1. Number 2 is Michael Mayer. Washington was my 3. I'm starting to slowly move away from that, though. The blocking is there, and he's probably going to be drafted as number 3. But I really like Zach Kuntz out of Old Dominion. If you look at his tape, it's just really fun. Some more names to specifically watch. I technically have 7 that are in my top 2 tiers. Tucker Kraft out of South Dakota State is a guy who is probably going a little bit under the radar for what he actually was able to do at South Dakota. It's pretty much, he was the passing offense kind of for them the last couple of years. There is a Cincinnati tight end named Josh Wiley who's getting quite a bit of hype from kind of the pre-draft process, but I actually like his running mate that was in the Cincinnati offense with him a little bit more. His name's Leonard Taylor. I think he actually profiles a little bit better as the move tight end from the Cincinnati, so he's in that second tier for me. And then the guy that I like the most right now is Luke Schoonmaker out of Michigan. He does everything that you could want to. He's now, I will preface this, he is the type of tight end that I fall for, where he does absolutely everything to the level that you expect him to do based off of his size, his blocking, his athleticism, and everything like that. It's the Charlie Kohler, the Cole Kmet for you, Austin. It's a guy that does what he's supposed to do at an adequate level. He's going to play 85+% of the tight end snaps realistically for a team. Does it turn into fantasy points for you? Absolutely no idea at this point, but he's a guy that I like a lot. So those would be my top 7 right now, rounding out with Schoonmaker.
What about you, Austin? I know you're a big Bears guy, so none of these guys will compare to Cole Kmet. Joking,
Not even close.
but not even close. Kmet or die. But how are you feeling about these tight ends? Is there a guy that, because you play tight end premium, I played 2 tight end premium. Is there a guy that you're like, I really like and I have to have, or you just kind of wait until the NFL draft to let them tell you what this tight end class really is?
I think I'm more like that, just because last year I completely missed. I took Charlie Kolar in I forget what round, but he obviously didn't play at all. I'm pretty sure he was hurt, but still. So after that happened, I don't want to say gave up, by not watching film. But I just want to wait, see what happens in the draft. If they land in a good spot, then I'll consider it. What about, let me ask you guys this. What about Sam Laporta from Iowa? I've heard some really good things about him on Twitter, and I just want to know, what you guys think about him.
I'm going to let you go first, Austin, and then Austin, excuse me, Dallas. I'm looking at Austin and saying Dallas. Dallas, 2 cities in Texas. Who knew? Give us some thoughts on Laporta.
Yeah, so Laporta, by that, ended up testing, poppy than he probably should have at the combine. He's a guy where when you watch his film, he doesn't really pop off the film. I'm giving away, Jesse's going to be pissed. I'm giving away this whole word association game with some of these prospects right now, but I put in quotations, how, as in how does this keep happening is what I put next to Sam Laporta, because he's not technically gifted. He's not pancaking guys on blocks, but he's just somehow just finding a way to slip out, get 2 yards of separation, catch the ball for 8 yards, and then go down. And it's just a guy who is going to be a zone eater at the next level. But for me, athletically, nothing super wild. I liken him absolute ceiling. What you would get with Sam Laporta is a Tyler Higbee type of prospect, where if he's in the right scheme, he does everything very, very well. It's just, I don't know how the hell he's doing it. I just really don't. So I'm not super in on Laporta right now, but he's a guy classically in Iowa that's probably going to get drafted. They like him. They know how to block, that type of thing. But he is not a Kittle-esque pancake blocker. He's not that violent. He's also slightly undersized. He's only 6'3", 240-ish range, something like that. So he's kind of on the smaller side, more of like an Irv Smith body type than a bigger tight end, but he doesn't have even remotely the athleticism that Irv had prior to the injuries.
All right. Well, I hadn't done a whole lot of research on Mr. Laporta. And so, of course, I'm using Player Profiler again. Final shout out to them because I love the functionality of what they do. His best comparable is Dalton Keene, and that gives me the bad juju because I was a Dalton Keene guy a little bit a couple of years ago and never materialized. That could have been as much the Patriots as it was Keene. But yeah, you're right. 6'3", 245, but an excellent athlete, 90th percentile speed score. Very bursty. He's in the 76th percentile for burst score and a good catch radius. So he is 6'3", not as tall, but he does check some boxes. But Laporta is the kind of guy, and I joked earlier, is it Zach Kuntz? Is that how you, so I'm probably gonna, I guess YouTube can ban me. I guess I don't know. Like I'm gonna call him Kuntz because it's funnier. But those are the kind of guys, Laporta and Kuntz. Those are the kind of guys that I'm gonna walk away from my rookie drafts tight end premium with more so than the big guys. Now I will preface this by saying I do play in one league. It's tight end premium. We start 2, and it's 1.75 points per reception. And in that league at the 204, I currently have a 204 in that league. It's going to be hard for me not to draft one of these guys based on landing position. I don't have a lot of needs in that draft, but it's just like, you think super flex is, a currency position when you talk about quarterbacks, mister, with the scarcity of talent at the tight end position and a must start 2 tight end premium, it gets weird quick. So that's my thought on tight end premium, but I really hope you guys enjoyed more talk about the non-quarterbacks. We all like Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, and some of us like Will Levis, like me. I like Will Levis quite a bit. And of course, Anthony Richardson. My son sends me about 7 texts a day saying, Dad, the Colts are going to draft Ant Richardson. And you know what? I'm quietly at peace with it. But we're going to take this one in. We're right on time because the guys of the War Game should be coming up next. But I'm going to start with Austin. Austin, first of all, thank you so much for being a patron and supporting us over at patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. If you're interested, you can find Austin on Twitter at FFA Schaefer. That is SCHAFFER. I know there are other ways to spell it, but this is clearly the right way to spell it. Mm-hmm. Austin, man, thank you for jumping on. Anything you want these people to know before we get you out of here?
Just go look up patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone and join the best chat ever. Because, like I said before we started recording, it's the best. Not even close.
And I love this. I love the fact that Austin this is who I want in our group. Austin is the poster person, as well as everybody else, to be very fair, of what I want in our group. I want people who are passionate about Dynasty. They're smart football fans, and they just love to mix it up with a positive attitude. Dallas, man, I'm glad we got on. We haven't had a chance to mix it up. You were super busy with what I like to call real life last week, and didn't get behind the microphone, and you and I were just chatting this morning, and I said, hey man, did you drop a show? Because I didn't see it in the queue for me to edit and get loaded. You're like, no, I'm going to try to jump on one today. And I'm like, dude, jump on a mock with us tonight and talk some ball, man. And you did a hell of a job. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to be here. Like he had kind of alluded to, Senor Memphis, I will be back in the saddle here hopefully this week. Work has just been nuts with the inevitability of me traveling for work quite a bit. When there's shitty weather up north, I can't do much. And then I play catch up for a couple weeks, which is basically what I've been doing the last 2 weeks. But yeah, the next episode of the Rookie Rundown, which drops typically on Mondays, as all of you know if you're listening, will be my red light, green light episode when it comes to prospect fits and prospect filling of holes post free agency of NFL teams. So look forward to it.
You can't beat the good filling of a hole. Well, I think on that note, I'm going to get us out of here. Really excited to jump on with these two guys and mock draft. So a lot going on with the show this week. So this was the Rookie Rundown. I appreciate Dallas letting me hijack the hosting duties on his podcast. I appreciate you. I'm going to be back on Monday night. I am going to be with Dan Williamson of the GOAT District. Dan is one of the elite. And when I say elite, I mean Google elite. If you don't know what elite means, elite best ball, high stakes players in the world. Dan's going to be on with me, and I'm going to be asking Dan rookie questions about the FFPC, about when Dan buys in for 1,500, I want to know where the rookies are going. When Dan buys in for 250, I want to know where the rookies are going. What are the super sharps? Maybe they don't have a Twitter account and maybe they don't care, but they're willing to put up $1,500 for a seasonal league. They probably know a few things about a few things, and I want to know what Dan knows. I'm going to be doing a show on Wednesday for a late in the week release with Jerry. And then, of course, the guys from the Dynasty War Games will be coming up here in not too but a few minutes, and they'll be dropping on their normal Thursday time slot. If you want to catch those guys, you can go to YouTube. You can catch the War Games guys early, and I'm going to get these guys out of here. So on behalf of Austin, on behalf of Dallas, I am Memphis, and remember, here at the Dynasty War Zone, we are just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. Subscribe, guys. You're going to miss a lot if you don't. Thank you so much.